Hi, and welcome to Dying of Exposure's new weekly Star Trek series, at least until Sarah no longer wants to do it with me. My name is Steve. I am honored to be joined by important Star Trek fan and all-around much more knowledgeable person in the world of Star Trek than me, Sarah Gulde. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'll just admit to it, cop to it right now. I desperately wanted to talk about Star Trek Discovery. I don't have any close personal friends that are watching it real time. And the internet is a terrible place with terrible people on it. So I wanted to do something for Dying Exposure, and you were foolish enough to agree to join me on this. And you add a bunch of cred, because whereas I am a Star Trek fan, I'm not on some Rodenberry Network podcasts or anything like that. I don't have, I haven't appeared in excellent DS9 documentaries, and my jealousy will be worn on my sleeve through every single episode we do together. But yeah, this is Open a Channel, the kind of weekly sort of talk back about whatever Star Trek is airing at the time. We're kicking it off professionally with the second episode of Star Trek Discovery.
I'm just a professional. Everybody keeps saying that to me. I'm just a professional. I'm just a professional.
What if we just mash up and talk about episodes 1 and 2?
We're gonna have to. That's definitely what we're gonna have to do. Because I suppose we should start off with a disclaimer. I love the modern Star Trek series. I don't like using the term Kurtzman era because the internet makes that such a negative sounding thing, depending on which Facebook group or which message board you're on. But the Kurtzman era, it's like the modern Star Trek CBS All Access shows, Discovery, Picard, and Lower Decks. I love them, and I believe you also, yes?
I love them so much. Yeah. I love what they're doing, especially with Discovery.
Oh, yeah, right? It's so good, and I'm so very happy that we get this. So if you're not a fan of this, feel free to get in the comments, and I will waste my time arguing with you on the internet, because that's all I do anymore. It's the only thing that the pandemic allows me to do is argue on the internet anymore. So, but feel free to disagree with anything we say. But, be kind about it. You don't need to attack us personally.
And I will ignore you. So
yes,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. You have more important things to do than that. I am a giant 12-year-old that is in the body of a wrecked 38-year-old. Let's just start off with I'm not going to bury the lead. Let's start off with that. How did you experience the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery now that they've been released to the rest of us plebs in the public?
So I got really lucky and I got to attend the virtual premiere party. In a normal year, they'd be having a big live in-person thing in LA and I would not get to go to it. But this year I did get to attend. It was a live stream, so you got to watch episode 1, and then there was an after party, and then they had Bobak Ferdowsi from NASA interviewing all the cast and the crew from the show, and then they had the chat going on the side, and they had all the actors from all the new shows were in the chat with us fans, just like, shooting the shit. It was great. And then about 3/4 of the way through, there was a red alert, and they told us, oh, we're also going to show you episode 2 after this, so stay tuned. So we got to see episodes 1 and 2 like a week and a half ago.
That is amazing, because I had definite post-Netflix frustration at episode 1, sort of like hang off, because I knew the way that they were going to do it was they're like, all right, they're going to give us Burnham in episode 1, and then in episode 2, since they're not connecting the Discovery, they're going to give us the Discovery. And then I had no idea how they were going to end episode 2, like how long they were going to pull that plot device off, or that narrative device off. But I was like, oh my goodness, please. Please don't do this to me. And they didn't. They did a good job, but like that was a long 7 days for me.
And they also sent us some goodies if you want to see them.
Yes, please show us the things.
They sent stuff to my house. So I think this was supposed to arrive the day of the premiere because they had a photo booth. It didn't actually arrive till the day after, but we got like photo props, including Grudge the Cat.
Grudge the Cat, the most important new cast member of season 3, 100%.
And then a couple days later, I got an envelope from the United Federation of Planets. And it had a little thank you note for attending the premiere. And then it had iron-on patches. So we
That's
get
so cute.
Starfleet, and we get the Federation, and we get the Discovery.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so nice of them to send that off. Like, they're already giving you the gift of, it's like, do you want to chat with the cast in the premiere? Also, here's some fun stuff. The viewers will see the social media at the end or throughout this video that's below our two videos right here, and they'll see something with a Facebook icon and then a Star Trek Quarterly. And do you want to explain what that is a little bit?
Oh, sure. So Star Trek Quarterly is the fanzine I started over a year ago. And it's totally by Trekkies, for Trekkies. It's just for fun. It's all free. You can find it on Facebook. You've written a fantastic fanfic for it, as well as a bunch of like fake ads that we sprinkled throughout the first issue and made it fun. People send in, they send in articles, they send in art, they send in reviews. I had someone write an advice column as a Vulcan counselor. Just everything that people love about Star Trek. They'll just write or create something to show that and send it in. And it's so much fun for me to put together.
Yeah, and it is well put together. It's super cool. I was super happy to be to write a cat-related fanfic in the Star Trek universe, merging the two most important things in my life.
Yeah, you all should go read it. It's in the first issue, and it's a Data and Spot fanfic.
Yeah, it's a Data and Spot fanfic, and it's really fun. It feels like what Star Trek is for, which is to collect people together of disparate sort of reasons that they connect to it in ways. So especially during a pandemic, which, we didn't know, you didn't know, nobody knew at the beginning of the project, and there being no conventions and stuff like that, this is a little bit of the material you would kind of get a variation of or a taste of at a convention, just in printed free PDF form, free Facebook form.
And there's a new issue coming out in about a week, so you can look for that on Facebook. If you just like Star Trek Quarterly, you'll get a notice.
And that will come out when this episode, which will release on Monday, do the math, Steve, 26th. Now let's talk about Star Trek Discovery. Let's talk about Disco, because it's so good. So let's do kind of an informal episode 1, because we got to get 1 and 2, and we're on a bit of a time crunch. So give me warning, spoilers for episode 1 and 2.
Red alert. All hands stand to battle stations.
It's in the title of the episode, it's in the description of the episode, but again, I will say it. Spoilers all over the place. That's why these come out a few days later, so that people get a chance to see them. What would you say were a couple, real standout things that you like? And you can go broad, you can go real specific about episode 1.
I cannot remember the character's name, but the new character played by Adil Hussein.
The communications officer was amazing. That was that was so Starfleet. It was so Starfleet.
I feel like if you don't want to give him a hug and cry a little, you're probably not human.
Oh my goodness. Oh, my heart. For me, I want to say the blunt-handed yet not pointed with neon arrows sort of it's I hate to call it fan service, but fan aware decisions that they made in this first episode, which is let's throw some Orions in. Let's throw, I don't know the character, the race of, or his race's name, but let's throw Morn's race into the episode. Let's have a little fun.
Say it's
Elurian, something like that.
Yeah.
Let's have a little fun with some obvious nods that we're not hey, look what we did. It's as much as everything is a choice in an episode. Every costume, every alien that shows up. And so by choosing, especially if you're going into the future, choosing a bunch of known, well-tread, and original series, Andorian, Orion, kind of races at you in high feature alien species feature moments is kind of a nice like grounding point for it's like, yeah, it's the future, but you're still in the alpha and beta quadrant. Like you're still in Star Trek. I thought it was
still
cool.
home. Yeah.
It's still home. What else from episode 1? Because it was so good, and I don't want to breeze fully by.
So Nequa Martin Green getting to do really a comedic episode for her. She was so fantastic. I want some of what she was on, by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh.
She was in a good mood. I guess my last thing is, we're also gonna tell you what the burn is. We're not gonna tell you why it happened, but we're just gonna immediately tell. It's not gonna be this long. It's like if something apocalyptic happened and everyone knew about it, they would all know about it. Like, no, it wouldn't be a mystery for them to find out. If they wanted them to meet people, inevitably they'd ask, like, why no Federation? Oh, big explosions on every ship. Okay. Done.
I also love that even though they dropped this huge news on us, the Federation is gone, it's still such a lighter feel to the start of this season. I feel like they're doing a huge reset. It's basically a caper episode. And then at the end, they reveal it's an environmentalism episode, which I feel is like a throwback to Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
When they were trying to reset the movies to be lighter, and they're like, oh, let's go with environmentalism where there's no villain.
A lot of the outdoor shots, a lot of the on-site Iceland shots really help to do that. Having Burnham have like laugh moments, having there be joke moments, having the Andorian and the Orion kind of not so much be like foolish guards, but sort of like not great. Like not great people, but also just not great at what they're doing and not necessarily on the same page. Just kind of introducing a lot of things. I agree with you. I think that it kind of happened over Disco 2, right? During Discovery 2 with Pike and sort of the insertion of that sort of original series, like all of the effort to try and give you that feel that ended up being a real benefit and creating Strange New Worlds as a series that we're going to get because of it. For this episode, I definitely agree. I think it was lighter hearted. It ends so that communications officer scene and the flag coming down is such an emotional moment, and it's so just like pitch perfect next gen era, like the best and brightest Starfleet. This is what it's about, like the Enterprise, the Captain Archer kind of vision of what Starfleet was always supposed to be. Right, of just these dedicated, really best of, not necessarily the most capable or the smartest people in the room, but the most decent and the most hopeful and the most welcoming and warm people in the room. And that back to your first point, the feels in that episode.
Right. And I think they did give us that moment in season 1, but they waited till the last episode of the season to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas this season, they're just giving it to us right up front.
They're just doing it. And I guess that daisy chains nicely. Also special notice, because we've mentioned him already, but I'll mention him again and again. Grudge the Cat, amazing. Want to see him every episode, all the time, in the background, in the foreground. Want an episode that follows him. Love a Maine Coon. Love a Maine Coon.
He needs a short trek.
He does. Oh, they should absolutely do a Grudge short trek.
Just do it!
Episode 2. We're back on the Discovery. We get to the crew of the Discovery. Give me some things. Give me some things that stood out to you, because episode 2 is I loved the season premiere, and then I loved this week. Like it went up a notch for me in this week's episode, big time.
I loved that it was basically a Tilly episode.
Who doesn't?
First, we start off with Georgiou being so mean to her and putting her down and making her feel small. And the things that she's putting her down for turn out to be the things that save them in the end.
Yep, 100%. It really was like it was asking me, Steve, what would you like the episodes to focus around for a while? And I'm like, well, I like Tilly, and I like Saru, and I like Stamets, and I like Jet. So if you could just make the episode mostly about those 4 right out the gate, and then give me some Georgiou kind of badass moment. Michelle Yeoh is so good. I think that this was like something I've kind of been waiting for, which is both the A and B plot lines in this episode were about crew bonding. Amount of trust and warmth, and again, that hope, that respect, that acknowledgement of different strengths and the sort of like benefits of it that Saru has toward Tilly is like exactly what I love in a good kind of a modern storytelling. We overcome things by friendship, communication, and mutual respect. Also, just like demanding respect on the. It's so nice to see him in like to see that it's like, okay, you're over your fear thing. You've done your like your species evolution past that, and now we get to see that in normal situations, not just high tension, even though it is kind of, Georgia kind of creates a high tension everywhere she goes, but like normal, just like you will respect the chain of command, and it's satisfying.
And we get to see him shoot spikes out of his head again.
We do get to see him with the spikes. He uses them so well. What else from this episode really?
I feel like there was kind of a C story where they're setting up tension between Giorgio and Saru for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah, I think he's really lucky that Michael showed up at the end, because she is the only thing that keeps Giorgio in check in our universe. Like, if Burnham was not here, Giorgio would have totally taken over the Federation by the end of season 2.
100%. Like taking over Section 31, through that, taking over the Federation. Dealt with the control problem, because that's in her way. But otherwise, I think they seeded a lot there. They seeded kind of Tilly's evolution. They gave us what I think we want to see more of, because Anthony Rapp is so good at it, as is Tig Notaro, which is sort of like a pedantic, kind of like aggressive mutual respect arguing sort of dynamic, which was just like they've cast that so well, so why not take advantage of it? That whole dynamic, Colbert, like all of it worked. It all worked. There was it felt like it was only barely punched up from regular life, just good dynamic.
I thought Wilson Cruz had some great scenes in this episode, because we didn't really get to know him. He only had a few episodes in season 1, and then he got killed, and he came back, and he was totally traumatized. So now we're really seeing him back in form.
Finally, their relationship was so it was so buyable. He's like, I'm the doctor, you're the patient, stay in the fucking cellular regeneration thing, or it's gonna be problems. And then like the little like sweet kiss, and it's like, I have work to do. Like, it's so nice. I like a romance that just exists in a show. So I love like a lived-in relationship that just exists, so you can have those like pieces of story, and you can have that emotional moment when someone's threatened. But I just, as much as I do enjoy I love season 1 and season 2 of Discovery, there are many things I am critical of, and one of those things is what you brought up. I feel like we never really got to see Stamets and Culver's relationship. Like, not in a real way where we felt invested and comfortable in it before it was taken away from us. And then it felt kind of like a plot device. And then when we got him back, we're all like, hooray, we got him back! And then they didn't give us the reward of that all of season 2. Basically, all of season 2, they're like, yeah, but he's not like, it's not the way you want him.
Yeah, and I like that they're expanding who they're having storylines about, because we definitely see that something's wrong with Detmer, but we don't know what's wrong with her yet.
Detmer, Owasakun, or Owosakun. Like, there are so many like people that you've seen on camera several times that you barely know in this ship, and I want to know them. Give me them.
I think that's one of the things that suffers now that we don't have like 26 episode seasons. You only get like 15, is we don't have the time to get to know other people as quickly. Yeah. So it's nice that they're branching out now. We're seeing Detmer more. I think we're going to see Owosakun more. We learned a little bit about Owosakun last season.
Owosakun, yeah, a little bit. But like they even gave us, what's his name? The tall, large-eyed alien that
Linus.
Linus, that was his name. I was looking at IMDb. I was like,
I
what
love
was
that they
Linus's name?
didn't give him like a weird alien name. They just called him Linus.
They're like, hi, Linus. And then they had that beautiful, warm pitched vocal for him. We talked about it. Episode 1 of this season ends with that warmth and that hope and that Starfleet. And episode 2 reinforces that so aggressively. How they behave through the whole sweet Western saloon bar. There's a guy that comes through and terrorizes the town and kills people. And we're underpowered to even save them, but we're going to be Starfleet about it. Like, the whole episode all the way to the end, all the way to the reunion, just feels positive. It feels light by comparison, even though we watch someone just get horribly torture murdered, like right in front of us, right in front of the crew.
But he believed, and that's what made the other people buy in.
Yeah, it was so good. Do you have any theories or suspicions? You already mentioned one, which is the belief that there's going to be a power struggle between Saru and Giorgio, and that they're kind of quietly setting that up, or not even really quietly, but they're not definitively, bluntly being like, this is the season, like they would have been in season 1 or 2. Are there any other theories that you have or suspicions that you have going into Discovery season 3 now that they're all the way in the future? 31.
Well, so I've got 2. First, it sounds like Michael got there a lot earlier than they did.
Yeah.
From what she says at the end, it's been all this time. It sounds like she's been there a couple years or something. So we'll find out next episode. The other, and I just appreciate this so much. They talk about the Federation referred to as the Vidrash, and that's something we heard before, way back in the short trek Calypso. He talks about the Vidrash.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really appreciate that they've had this plot line set up for a while.
Yep.
Like, I think they've had the jump into the future set up from the very beginning, and I really appreciate that they took 2 seasons to get there.
I really think that even though it's changed showrunners so much and it's changed direction, and that's kind of clear from sort of season to season how it's been narrated and kind of controlled. And again, something to acknowledge, something to maybe criticize, doesn't ruin the show for me. It's just a thing that exists, sort of, that I think that they've kind of struggled with. But I think it's always wanted to go. I think it lives so well in the future because it gives them the room. Discovery doesn't feel like it was ever set up to be like Enterprise, or like Strange New Worlds even arguably feels like it's already being set up to be, which is sort of let me fill in the Star Trek that you remember. It always felt like it's like, let me give you a modern Star Trek and give you something that's different than what you saw. And so by shuttling it like almost 1,000 years into the future, they can do that. They can literally do that constantly. They can give you new aliens. They can give you retakes on old aliens. They can change alliances. They can give you new technology. They can have a lot of fun with it and not have a bunch of people being like, yeah, but why didn't we hear that on the original series? Why didn't we hear that? Why did we hear nothing about that? And it's like they were gonna always get there on why that was the case.
Yeah, and I do think it was a brilliant way to set up a show that you intended to be 900 years further along, to set it in a place we were already very familiar with, and they could bring in faces that we were, not faces, but names that we were familiar with. They could bring in Pike, and they could bring in Spock. They could bring in the Enterprise, and, get us hooked, and then take us into the future.
By having mirror universe stuff, by having weird time travel and a weird paradox and having to hunt down Spock and getting involved in these things, by having all these very strange kind of first 2 seasons for them, it's almost like this was the training ground. This is the crew that could do this 900 years. Other crews wouldn't have even remotely been prepared for what this was. But this crew, it's like, whatever, we survived the mirror universe. We survived an evil captain. We survived an evil captain. We survived the entire Federation hunting for Spock. Like, we'll get there. And so I really like it. I think that just feels right. And it makes me so excited for this season of Discovery. Because I feel like they're in their sprinting pace.
Yes, I feel like we've had our first 2 episodes set up, and now we just get to go anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so ready. I'm so ready to see what the remnants of the Federation look like. all those prequel questions that you had, like, well, are they going to go talk to the Romulans? Are they going to go deal with this group? Now you get to ask all of those, but the answers are wide open. Are they going to go see, what is this kind of like syndicate thing, trade junction, like who has power where, like how are they going to reform the Federation, how are they going to solve this dilithium problem? It's neat. It brings some of the best parts of the old series, some of my favorite parts of Enterprise get to be part of this, right? Because it's about basically convincing alien races again, and it's like no, this is the good idea. Working together and calm cooperation. Final thoughts, anything you want to bring up, anything that you want to say before we kind of wrap up our first episode of Open a Channel?
I cannot wait until someone produces a little parakeet alarm clock that I can have for my own.
Oh, right.
That was so random, but it's adorable.
We will be back next week, I guess. Monday. So these will come up Mondays, typically, barring scheduling. Come up Mondays after every episode. They'll spoil every previous episode beforehand in previous seasons. And we'll do them, as I said, until Sarah gets tired of me. Make sure to follow on social media.
You can find me on Twitter at Sarah Miyoko, SARAH, M as in Mary, IYOKO. And you can find Star Trek Quarterly on Facebook, and you can also catch me on my other podcast, Women at Warp.
Yeah, that's a very good podcast. It's more qualified than this to be discussing Star Trek, but Sarah brings the credentials wherever she goes. I, of course, dying of exposure here, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Last but not least, it is still before the election, so please vote. Make sure to vote. It's the end of October. It's 2020. Just make sure that you're registered if you're in a state. There's lots of states where you can register literally on the same day as the election. But vote. It's important to participate if you're in North America, if you're in the United States. Voting, very important this year, so please do so. But for me and for Sarah, this has been Open a Channel on Dying of Exposure, and we will see you next week.